Happy Friday! Sorry, I was running a little bit late. It's a couple minutes after 12, but I made it. So today, I'm really excited about this book today. It is called Raising Dragons, and it is written by Jerdine Nolen and illustrated by Elise Primavera. And it's a really fun book, and I hope that you enjoy it. I think it'll probably take all of our time today. But it'll get your imagination going, that's for sure. Pa didn't know a thing about raising dragons. He raised corn and peas and barley and wheat. He raised sheep and cow and pigs and chickens. He raised just about everything we needed for life on our farm. But he didn't know a thing about raising dragons. Ma didn't know about dragons neither. She made a nice home for us. But when it came to dragons, she didn't even know what they wanted for dessert. Now me, I knew everything about dragons, and I knew they were real. At first, Pa thought the notions of dragons on a farm was just plain foolishness. I'm not too particular about fanciful creatures, and I don't have any time for make-believe, he told me one day. So when Pa said that he didn't want to talk anymore, I knew I better keep my opinions to myself. But I did my chores, and Pa worked on the other end with his thoughts, and I worked on with mine. Look at those clouds. Oh my God. Sorry about that. I'm still here. Lisa didn't cut you off. It just made you so you couldn't see me for a second. Well, we'll just have to try and fix that real quick so it doesn't happen again. Oh yeah, could you come and help me do this, please? I hope you weren't too into that story yet. Because we're just getting to the exciting part where she's going to find the dragon. It's still going to fall. I'm very happy you're here today. Or tomorrow, or whenever you happen to watch it. Here we go. I think we're good. Because I remember the day that my life with dragons began. I was out for my Sunday before supper walk, and near Miller's Cave, I came across something that looked like a big old rock. But it was too round and too smooth and not hard enough to be a rock. Carefully, I rolled it into the cave, and I went to fetch my Pa. What do you think it is, Pa? One egg. A big egg, was all he said. Now, you stay away from that thing there, daughter. No telling what's going to come out of it. I couldn't tell if Pa was more scared than worried. You just stay away from it. You hear me? He said, pointing a finger at me. Now, I always minded my parents. Never had a reason not to. And I tried to mind Pa now, but I could not stay away. Day after day. I went down to Miller's Cave to watch and to wait and to wonder what was going to come out of that egg. And then one night, I couldn't sleep. I got out of my bed and I climbed out of my window and onto the porch that Pa made me for me in the old oak tree. But a loud noise broke the stillness of the night. Crack! It was louder than 100 firecrackers on the 4th of July. Crack! I heard it again. This time louder than before, and it was coming from Miller's Cave. At the first hint of dawn, I headed down toward that sound, and there, in the corner of the cave, where I'd left it, was that egg. And pushing its way out, like I seen so many baby chicks do, was a tiny dragon poking through that shell with its snout. It was love at first sight. Hey there, little fella. Welcome to the world, I sang soft and low. As I stroked its nose, a sweet little purring whimper came from him. As I touched skin to scale, I knew I was his girl and he was my dragon. I named him Hank. Hank was just a joy to have around. He was a fire-breathing dragon, and he made sure he kept his temper whenever I was near. Pa wouldn't have seen the sense or the use of having a dragon around who ate you out of house and home. Thankfully, Hank preferred fish and frogs and eels and insects to beef and lamb and chicken and pork, and he did have one healthy appetite. Ma never wanted to know about Hank. Whenever I wanted to talk about him, she'd cover her ears and sang. She said that having a dragon around was worse than having a field full of critters. But it wasn't. Ma and Pa taught me about caring for living creatures from the day I was born. They taught me about raising lots of things, but they never imagined that someday I would care for a critter that most folks didn't even believe existed. It did take a little time, but whether they liked it or not, Hank was a part of our lives. He was an awesome thing, growing to be as big as the barn. From tail to snout, Hank was very clumsy when his wings came in, but once he learned how to use them, we'd go flying, especially at night. Up until then, I've been afraid of the dark, the shadows and the muffled voices, and the complete quiet stillness always seemed to be waiting and watching me. I'd seen our farm from up in my tree porch, but Hank showed me my world from on high, the way a cloud or a bird or a star might just be seeing me. Up there, I saw things for what they were, and it was just grand. Now, Pa was the first one to notice that there was a strangeness happening on our farm. One morning, with Samson, our mule, hitched up for work, Pa set out to plow the fields, but all the work had been done. The ground was turned over and the seeds had been sown. Pa was plumb flabbergasted. Hank and I tended the crops, too. We pulled weeds and kept varmints away, and Hank even got me to school before the first bell. Even after all the good he'd done, Ma still didn't want any part of Hank. But then there was a hot spell, and her tomatoes just started to dry out. Hank hovered over them, fanning away the heat. He saved just about every last one of them, and Ma didn't admit it, but she felt beholden to Hank. She began fixing fancy gourmet meals for him, eel pot pie, frog leg pudding, and fish and insect stew that Hank just loved. Yuck. Day by day, Hank was getting bigger. Ma was uneasy about Hank's fire-breathing breath. Pa paced with worry about all the corn that Hank and I had planted. There was corn a-growing everywhere. Ma cooked as much as she could, but there was way too much. Just when it seemed like the corn was going to swallow up our farm, Hank grabbed Pa's shovel and dug a wide trench around the cornfield. Then he blew on it with his hot breath. "What in tarnation?" Pa screamed. Ma ran out of the house carrying a bucket of water, but it was too late. The whole field was ablaze. We couldn't believe our ears. Pop, 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 pop. Or our eyes. Hank was making popcorn. It took an entire week to salt and bag it, and we sold it all at a profit. It was the first dragon-popped popcorn that anybody ever saw or tasted. Oh, and it was real good, too. When Ma harvested her tomatoes, Nancy Atkins bought some. She claimed they had medicinal value. She said they cured her gout. Pretty soon people wanted dragon-grown food like they wanted medicine or magic cures. But there was nothing medicinal or magical about it. It was just plain old Hank. The crowds and attention decided his fate. One evening, Ma and I was sitting in front of our potbelly stove, and she was shelling peas while I read Murdoch's Adventure Atlas of the Known and Unknown World. It's a book I got from the library that morning. In that instant, I realized what I needed to do. Come morning, Hank and I, we set out for the dragon-shaped landmass that was floating in the middle of the ocean. There were dragons everywhere. They put us up in their best hotel, and they invited us to eat at their best restaurants. Hank felt right there at home. When I saw Hank playing run and fly and chase, I knew he had found the perfect place to be. All in all, it was a real good vacation. But at the end, it got real hard. I had to say farewell to Hank, well, at least for now. Normally, I don't get mushy at departings, but when Hank turned to me and called me Cupcake, I boo-hooed a heap. Whew. And just as I was about to board my plane, Hank stood there on the runway trying to hide a wheelbarrow behind his back. His toothy grin lit up that cloudy day. That wheelbarrow was full of rocks? Ma squealed in puzzlement. "'Tain't rocks, Mama. They're eggs. They're dragon eggs," I exclaimed. Pa beamed right proud. Each egg looked different from the rest. One glowed, one glistened, another one flickered, and one even sparkled. I stood there admiring the lot of them. Looking at those eggs, I thought about my Hank. For now, he was out there somewhere in the world. I knew I'd see him again. Wondering when was the only thing that was fixed in my mind. But in the meantime, I knew what I had to do. The same way Pa knew that farming was in his blood, I knew that raising dragons was in mine. There are some things that you just know. The end. I hope you enjoyed that book as much as I did. I really like raising dragons. It gets my imagination just going like crazy. Just thinking about what it would be like to have a dragon around. Think of all the fun things that you could do if you had a dragon. Wouldn't that be fun? So think about that. Maybe write a story about it. What would you do if you had a dragon? Good idea, huh? Well, it's Friday, so I won't be back until Monday, but you can rewatch all my other stories if you want to, and I look forward to Monday. Have a fabulous weekend.